Hello! Today we are going to talk about subtracting fractions. So to begin with, we're going to take a look at this picture right here. So in this picture right here, we've got this rectangle that we'll have to represent one whole, and it's divided into 7 pieces. So each one of these is going to be 1/7. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sevenths filled in. 5 sevenths. And then you can see that we're being asked to subtract 3 sevenths. So an easy way to show this in the picture is just to show taking away, crossing out 3 of these sevenths. So that is going to leave us with 2 sevenths. Okay, so that seemed pretty easy. Let's go ahead and try a more complicated example. Okay, so right here, I've got a circle representing the whole, and half of it is colored in yellow, so I'm going to call this 1/2. Oh, but then I'm trying to take away 1/3. I can't even see 1/3 in this picture. And I could estimate that it's like right here, but then if I cross out this whole part right here, then I don't really know how much is left right here. I'm like, how big is this sliver? So this is kind of a problem. Thinking we might need to come up with a new strategy for solving this one. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to do something a little bit similar to what we did when we were adding our fractions. When we're adding fractions, we started by cutting our fractions down into smaller pieces. So remember, we were looking for something that was a multiple of our original denominators. Here we've got a 2 and a 3. So I'm thinking in our final answer we probably want to have 6ths. So I'll divide up my entire circle here into 6ths. So then the fraction that I started with, if I wanted to put that in 6ths, I would have 1, 2, 3 of my 6ths filled in. So I'll rewrite this as 3/6. And then over here, if I wanted to make 1/3 into 6ths, then I would have to multiply the bottom by 2, multiply the top by 2. This would be -2/6. Okay, so now that I've got my lines for 6th in this picture, I've got the whole thing divided into pieces, each of them being 1/6 of the circle, it's going to be easier for me to see how I can cross out 2 of these 6ths. And that is going to leave me with 1/6. Let's see if that makes sense with the numbers. Yeah, it looks like I could go ahead and do 3 minus 2 will give me 1/6 left. So that looks pretty similar to what happened when we started out with equal sized pieces. And we had 5 minus 3 left us with 2 pieces. Nice. So it seems like as long as we can force our pieces to be all the same size, subtracting fractions isn't so bad. So let's go ahead and write out some steps that we're going to want to use whenever we subtract fractions. Okay, so here are our steps. So number 1, if you have a mixed number, make it improper fraction. So this is going to be especially important when we're subtracting fractions. I want to make sure that we're starting out with improper fractions at the beginning of the problem. So step number 2, we're going to make equal size pieces. And just like we talked about when we were adding fractions, this is also called finding the LCD, finding the least common denominator. That means making sure that our denominators are the same in both of the fractions that we're trying to subtract. Okay, and then our third step right here will be subtract the numerators. Remember, those are the numbers on top. And keep the denominator the same. So the number on the bottom should not be changing in this step. So that's when the real subtraction happens, but after that we're still going to have one last step to kind of clean up our final answer, and that one's going to be reduce if needed. Want very nice, clean, reduced fractions. And then change to mixed if needed. Change to mixed number if needed. So there's a lot of contexts where we don't really want to have to say that we have 17 halves of an inch. It's just going to make sense for us to put it back into a mixed number and say that I've got 9 inches and a half. So let's go ahead and actually try a problem where we're doing that. So right here I've got 1/4 minus 1/5. Neither of these are mixed numbers, so I can go on to my next step, which is find a common denominator. In order to find a common denominator, I'm going to start out by finding a number that's a multiple of 4 and a multiple of 5. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and 5, 10, 15, 20. Ooh, look it, there's a match. So we now know that our denominator that we want is 20. So in order to get a 20 on the bottom over here, I'm going to have to multiply the bottom by 5, also multiply the top by 5. Over here, multiply the bottom by 4, also multiply the top by 4. Okay, so right here, we multiply by 5, we multiply the top by 5, 1 times 5 will give us 5, minus, got a 20 on the bottom, and 1 times 4 will give us 4 on top. Okay, so now our next step is going to be subtract the numerators and keep the denominator. So 5 minus 4 is going to give us 1, and our size pieces, 20ths, is going to stay the same. Okay, so now we've got 1 20th, and 1 isn't divisible by anything, so I'm definitely not going to be able to reduce this. And this is a lot smaller than 1, so I'm not going to be able to change it into a mixed number. So now I know that this is my final answer. Okay, so now I have a practice that I would like you to go ahead and try on your own. So please pause this video and try this problem before we walk through it together. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this problem together. We're going to have 1/3 minus 1/4. Again, neither of these is a mixed number, so we can go ahead to our next step. So we'll find a number that is a multiple of both 3 and 4. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, enough. And we've got 4, 8, 12. Ooh, there's a match. 12 over here, 12 over here. So we want to get 12 as our denominator. In order to get a 12 on the bottom here, I have to multiply by 4. Whatever I do to the bottom, I also have to do to the top. Multiply by 4. Okay, to get a 12 on the bottom here, I have to multiply the bottom by 3, so I also have to multiply the top by 3. Okay, so here I've got 3 times 4 is 12, 1 times 4 is 4. 3 times 1 is 3, and 4 times 3 is 12. Excellent. So now I should be ready to actually subtract. So I'm going to subtract my numerators and keep the denominator the same. So 4 minus 3 will give me 1. My size pieces, 12ths, will remain the same. Okay. So just like on the last problem, we've got a 1 on top. Definitely can't divide that by anything, so we won't be able to reduce this. And this is a lot smaller than 1, so we're not going to be able to change it into a mixed number. And this right here will be our final answer. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on to another example. Okay, so here we've got 5/6 minus 5/8. Okay, so neither of these are mixed numbers. We'll go on to finding the common denominator. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Okay, and over here I've got 8, 16, 24. Ah, there's a match. 24 and 24. So I want to get 24 as my new denominator. So on this side I'll have to multiply the bottom by 4, also multiply the top by 4. 5 times 4 is 20, 6 times 4 is 24. Over here I want to get 24 on the bottom. 8 times 3 will give me 24. Multiply the top by 3. 5 times 3 is 15. So now I've got 15 24ths, and I'm ready to subtract. So I want to subtract my numerators. 20 minus 5, or 20 minus 15 will give me 5. I'll turn it around. Okay, so here we go. 20 minus 15 will give me 5. And then on the bottom, I will keep my size pieces the same, so I've still got 24ths. So now I've got 5 24ths. So the top is only divisible by 5, the bottom is not divisible by 5, not going to be able to reduce this any, and it's a lot smaller than 1, so we're not going to be able to turn it into a mixed number. This right here will be our final answer. Okay, so now we've got another practice problem, so I'll go ahead and give you time to pause this video and try it on your own, then we'll come back together and see what happens. Okay, so here we've got 5/6 minus 3/4. Okay, so neither of these are mixed numbers, so I'll just go on to finding a common denominator. My multiples of 6 are going to be 6, 12, 18, 24. My multiples of 4 are going to be 4, 8, 12. Aha! There's a match. 12 over here, 12 over here. Okay. So then I'll go ahead, and in order to get 12 on the bottom here, I'll have to multiply by 2. If I multiply the bottom by 2, I also have to multiply the top by 2. 5 times 2 will give me 10, and double check, 6 times 2 is definitely 12. Okay, so then to get 12 on the bottom over here, I need to multiply the bottom by 3, which means I multiply the top by 3. 3 times 3 will give me 9, and again, 4 times 3 is definitely 12. Okay. So, let's draw a line here so you can see what's happening. Okay, so now I am ready to subtract. So I'll go ahead and take my top numbers, my numerators. 10 minus 9 will give me 1, and the bottom remains the same. My size pieces are still 12ths. So here I've got 1/12 is my final answer. 1 won't divide by anything, so I won't be able to reduce it. And it's a lot smaller than 1, so I won't be able to change it into a mixed number. And this right here will be my final answer. Okay, so this next one right here, we've got a little bit of a story to go along with it, trying to make it a little bit more real life, especially if you've ever done any sewing. So we're starting out with 7 5/8 yards of fabric, and then we're cutting off a nice clean 4 3/4 yards of fabric to make a curtain using a pattern for some curtains, and it says, how many yards do you have left? Okay, so we're starting out with 7 5/8 minus 4 3/4. So this is going to give us a chance to actually try out the part where we have to change these into improper fractions first. So here, in order to change this into an improper fraction, I'll do 7 times 8 will give me 56. And then 56 plus 5 will give me 61. So I've got 61/8. Then over here, I've got 4 times 4 will give me 16. And then 16 plus 3 will give me 19. So I've got 19 fourths. Okay. So now I just need to go ahead and find a common multiple of 8 and 4. Seems like that should be pretty easy because 4, 8 is, already showing up on this list, and it's definitely a multiple of 8. So let's go ahead and pick 8 as our new common denominator, which means we only have to change this fraction right here. Okay, so to get eighths on the bottom, we'll have to multiply by 2, which means we also multiply the top by 2. So then that would be 38. Okay, so now we have 61 eighths minus 38 eighths, and we should actually be ready to do our subtraction. 61 minus 38. That one I'm going to go ahead and do over here. So those are going to be a little bit big numbers. Okay, so I'm going to have to borrow. 11 minus 8 will give me 3. 5 minus 3 will give me 2. So I'm left with 23 eighths. Okay. So then this won't reduce any because the top number is odd, so it won't be divisible by 2 or 4 or 8. And the bottom is only divisible by 2 and 4 and 8. Okay. So then, since we started out with mixed numbers, I want to change this back into mixed numbers, which especially makes sense because normally at the store they sell fabric in, whole yards plus a little bit. So we'll start out by going, how many times does 8 go into 23? It'll go in 2 times. 16 minus, we'll give us 7. So then my whole number is 2, and I've got 7 eighths left over. Okay, so now I know that I've got 2 yards and 7 eighths yards left over. So let's see if that kind of makes sense. So if I have more than 7 yards and more than 4 yards, so it would make sense that I'd be somewhere around 3 yards left over, and 2 and 7 eighths, that's definitely going to be close to 3, because the 7 eighths is just a sliver short of a whole. So I'm thinking this is a pretty logical answer. Okay, there we go. Excellent. So now we'll do a similar problem. This one's just got a stick that's so many feet long. So I will go ahead and give you guys a chance to try this on your own, and we will come back together to solve it in a minute. Okay, so here we have 2 and 3 eighths minus 1 and 3 fourths. So just like on the last problem, we want to be making sure that we start out by turning these into improper fractions. So I'll go ahead and say 2 times 8 will give me 16, and 16 plus 3 will give me 19. So I've got 19 eighths over on this side. Over here I've got 1 times 4 will give me 4, plus 3 will give me, oops, that's not written very nicely. New problem. So then I've got 4 plus 3 will give me 7. Okay, so over here I've got 7 fourths. Okay, so the next step that we always have to do is make sure that we have equal-sized pieces, find a common denominator. And again, just like in the last problem, seeing that I probably only have to change this 4 right here, because if I can change that into an 8, which is a multiple of 4, then they'll match. So let's go ahead and try to make this one into eighths. Multiply the top and the bottom both by 2. So I'll get 14 eighths. Okay, so now I've got 19 eighths minus 14 eighths. So let's go ahead and subtract the numbers on top. 19 minus 14 will give me 5. And on the bottom, my denominator will stay the same. Our size pieces are still eighths. Okay, so here we've got 5/8, and this is smaller than a whole, so we're not going to be able to change it into a mixed number. And 5 is an odd number, and 8 is only divisible by even numbers. So this is going to be my final answer. 5/8 or 5/8 feet. I'm going to put our units back on so people know we're not talking about inches or yards or anything crazy like that. So this will be our final answer. Okay, so this is the end of our official lesson, but if you feel like you would really like some more practice right now with subtracting fractions, we can do a few more problems. So I'm just going to go ahead and give you a second to pause this video if you'd like to do that. And once you've had a chance to try them on your own, I will solve them up here on the board, and you can see whether or not you're getting the correct answer.